This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio, a review of Carnival Valor this week, sailing out of the Big Easy with Amy. And as always, staff writer Richard Sims is here with Cruise News. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug, and I'm going to beg the listeners to be a little bit kind to me today because I'm under the weather, so I may sniffle and cough my way through this.
We kick things off with a family vacation that didn't go quite as planned.
Ever wonder what you would do if a member of your travel party was kicked off the ship for some reason? Like, you're having this amazing vacation and all of a sudden, somebody in your party gets kicked off for whatever reason. What do you do? Well, a 44-year-old Australian guy found out when he was booted off Anthem of the Seas after getting involved in a brawl with another guest. Although the police didn't arrest him, Royal Caribbean enforced their own policy by having him removed from the ship. The rest of his family, though, they were like, okay, we're out of here. They continued with the 10 days sailing. And remember, if a guest is removed under a situation like this, it's up to them to get themselves home. So yeah, here's hoping this guy learned his lesson. Can you imagine getting home? You're the rest of the family. You've gone on this trip and you're getting together with your friends and you're showing them pictures from your vacation. And they're like, where's your dad? Oh, yeah, he got kicked off. But here we are on the water slides.
Well, good for his family for sailing on, though, because it sounds like he started a little fight there. So
I agree. I mean, I think especially, if it's a 10-day sailing on a ship like Anthem, you've spent some money on this trip. So I don't see any reason that dad's bad behavior should impact the rest of you. Go live your best lives.
Absolutely. And a Carnival cruise ship had an unusual incident while docked in Cozumel on Wednesday.
Yeah, the Carnival Dream was on a 6-night sailing out of Galveston, Texas. The ship's last port of call before returning was Cozumel, Mexico. While there, the crew was conducting a lifeboat drill, which is, really common. We've all been on a ship and noticed that they're lowering the lifeboats into the water and they're like, what are they doing? And then you can hear the announcements that they're doing a drill. Well, that's what was happening here. But in this case, something went wrong. One of the latches, according to Carnival, got caught up in the cables as the lifeboat was lowering. There was nobody on the lifeboat, but it wound up disconnecting and plunging down into the water and drifting over to the dock as people on the dock were watching. Although it was definitely, like a big dramatic moment, it made a big sound as something that heavy falling into the water would, but nobody was injured and it didn't impact the ship's ability to return to Texas as scheduled. So as we like to say here, all's well that ends well.
I'm just glad there was no passengers or staff in there.
Yeah, that's the thing is when you hear that, or even crew members, they could have been doing, I have seen safety drills where to get the most accurate assessment of how they would work under, in the case of an emergency, they've had crew members get on board the lifeboat, lower it down, do the whole thing, as sort of, an extremely valid mock drill. In this case, there were no passengers no crew members on board. Thank goodness, because that could really, I even just think about, I'm at that age now where I think about how slamming down into the water like that would impact your back, so yeah. Glad there was nobody on board.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were on Norwegian Getaway like 3 years ago, and we were docked in Nassau, and Royal Caribbean's, I think, Brilliance of the Seas was docked next to us, and they had like a full-on lifeboat drill launching those things in real time. It was interesting. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was so cool. I've seen a few of those, and it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, they were watching.
I also really like listening to the announcements when they're doing even the internal fire drill, and you can hear the various announcements that would be made during an actual fire. I find that stuff fascinating, and I'm sure every single time it happens, there's at least one or two people on board who have missed all the announcements about how this is going to be going on, and it's only a drill, and they are freaking out and trying to get to their lifeboat station.
And a bit of good news where Jamaica is concerned after being hit by a pretty massive hurricane.
Yeah, in this case, it was good news for both the cruise lines and the island. Carnival Sunrise arrived in Jamaica's Ocho Rios on Wednesday, a place that I have not yet gone, but I hope to next year. What makes this particular visit so important is that it's the latest sign that Jamaica is recovering after being hit by the hurricane. There are people out there who will say, why are the cruise lines in such a hurry to return? But it's really important to note that the island relies on tourist money. Did you ever see the movie Jaws? Mm-hmm. There's a moment where the sheriff wants to close the beaches because there's been a shark attack. But the mayor says one of my favorite lines, Amity needs summer dollars. We say variations of that in my house all the time. Richard needs a summer cruise. But anyway, in Jaws, it didn't really end up all that well. But in this case, it's a positive because the cruise ships are bringing passengers with money to spend. The ships are also bringing supplies and humanitarian aid, all of which is needed by the people of Jamaica. So yes, they are returning as quickly as possible. Yes, it is, on some level, it is a little not self-satisfying. It's because the cruise lines, want to get back to this popular hotspot as opposed to having to completely upend their itineraries for months at a time. But it's also really, really important, more important probably to the island and its economy than it is to the cruise line, which is going to make money no matter what, because they're going to go, if they can't go to Jamaica, they'll go somewhere else. So, let's not be judging the cruise lines for getting back there as quickly as they can. It's important that they do.
And a mechanical issue caused all kind of problems for one Carnival cruise ship.
Yeah, some folks wound up staying on longer than expected. Others wound up being shortchanged a day. It was all because the Carnival Horizon had mechanical issues, which majorly impacted the speed at which it could cruise. Supposedly, at one point, it was basically limping along in the water at single-digit speeds. It was supposed to return to Miami at 8 a.m. on Saturday, I believe it was, but that was delayed until mid-afternoon. This, of course, meant that a lot of people who were on board would wind up missing their flights. So Carnival reimbursed them $200 for, that inconvenience and to cover their change fees and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the ship's next sailing was delayed too because of the issue. Boarding was supposed to take place on Sunday morning, but guests were informed they wouldn't be able to embark until that evening. Ultimately, the last guests were welcomed on board around 10:30 p.m. Sunday night, with the ship not actually setting sail until 1 a.m. on Monday morning. Obviously, you can imagine these people were probably not thrilled that they lost an entire day of their cruise. Carnival did what they could do. They gave the passengers a prorated one-day refund of their cruise fare, as well as things like, drink packages and Wi-Fi costs. The big question is whether this particular issue has been resolved or whether we'll continue to see it impacting future Carnival Horizon sailings in the weeks to come. One thing we do know is that the ship is already slated to go into a dry dock in June of next year. So hopefully it can hold on until then. Otherwise, they might have to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, remember in 2019 in the summer, they had to take Vista out of water and bring that big dry dock down from Northern Europe. And they floated it off the coast of Freeport and changed the prop and everything because it was a really bad, and it's still
one of the coolest things I've ever seen. That huge floating dry dock that kind of went under the ship and lifted it up. That was so amazing.
Yeah. And we end here on a heartbreaking story out of the Bahamas where a fire has destroyed several popular eateries amongst cruise passengers.
Yeah, this story just goes from bad to worse. So a fire tore through the area known as, some people call it Arawak Cay, some people call it the Arawak Fish Fry. It destroyed a whole row of restaurants, including Goldie's, which is one of the most popular eateries in that particular section of the Bahamas. Unfortunately, this comes just as the Bahamas is heading into the holiday season, which is their busiest time. They make a lot of money that time of year. And to look at the photos, it's not as if those establishments are going to be able to quickly rebuild. Worse, local news reports say that almost none of the impacted businesses were insured. They didn't carry insurance, which isn't terribly surprising in these types of establishments. But, that's going to make the recovery even harder. But wait, there's more bad news because now looters have reportedly been raiding the destroyed businesses, basically grabbing up anything that the fire didn't destroy. The Prime Minister Davis, hopes that the area might be rebuilt and the businesses reopened within 60 days. But, that seems really ambitious, especially, it'll depend on how much aid they can get from the government if they don't have insurance, that kind of thing. So far, there's no indication of exactly how the fire started, but man, what a loss. That's, just like I said, one of the most popular places for people who get off the ship to go and grab some good Caribbean food.
I will say one thing about Bahamians, they're resilient as hell. I mean, we've seen them go through so many hurricanes on both Grand Bahama Island and where Nassau is located, and they've come back. So, they're going to be back. And plus, the fish fry, it's so popular amongst cruise passengers. Like everyone, we did the story the other day on it on Cruise News Today, and there were so many people leaving comments just sharing their stories about Goldie and eating the conch there and the grouper fingers and things like that.
That was the first place I ever had conch fritters, was at Goldie's.
Yeah.
I had heard so much about it, and I went over and tried it, and they were amazing, and I went back on several trips after that. Yeah, one of the things that'll be interesting is to see how this fire started. And remember, the Bahamas has just undergone this massive refurbishment. Like that whole area right off the ship in Nassau is completely redone. So might that area be doing so well that it can sort of almost, help this area that has just been wiped out? Maybe somehow sort of help funnel them some money or some help in order to get them back up and running as well. Because what's good for one part of the Bahamas is good for all of it. Because you remember, it was only a couple years ago that they did some survey that said something like 90% of cruisers were like, yeah, no, we don't even get off the ship in Nassau. And I think that has really, really changed ever since they, redeveloped the port area. So if they can redevelop this area as well, that is going to be good for everybody. It'll be good for the cruise lines. It'll be good for cruise passengers. And it'll obviously be good for the people of the Bahamas.
Listener question comes from Dan in Laramie, Wyoming. He says, can you buy a future cruise certificate on Norwegian Cruise Line? And if you can, how does it work?
Oh, you most certainly can, my friend. In fact, you can buy a future cruise certificate on most cruise lines now. When I was on MSC recently, I saw that they have them. Basically, the way it works with NCL is that you buy a certificate. The ones I've bought in the past were $250. You paid $250 for this certificate that was worth $250 as a deposit on a future cruise, which you don't have to pick right then. You can pick later on down the line. You have I think it's 2 years you have to actually use the certificate. But the great thing is, let's say you buy that on day 2 of your current sailing, they give you $100 onboard credit that you can spend on your current sailing. So you're getting a $350 value for $250. And you can increase that by buying more. You can buy 2 for $500 and then you get $250 onboard credit, that kind of thing. I always recommend that if you are going to go this route, whether it's on Norwegian or any other line, that you do it early in your cruise so that if there is, as with Norwegian, this onboard credit that you're going to be given, you have time to spend it. A lot of people wait until the last day of their cruise and then they're like, oh, I should go down to the future cruise desk and get a certificate. And that's great. And you still get perks and things like that. But if one of those perks is $100 onboard credit, you're not going to be able to use it because unless you have something planned that night, like maybe you're going to go to dinner that night. So it's always better to get it earlier in the cruise. But they're a great deal. You can hold on to them for a while. You don't have to use them on the same ship. You don't even have to know what ship or when you're going to sail. You can just say, it'll be, and the way that you keep track of it is they will give you a certificate, but you don't have to keep that. It's not like you have to remember where you put it 2 years from now. When you log into ncl.com, it'll show up in your account. It'll say, you have a $250 future cruise credit. And you can very easily apply it. Sometimes I usually if I'm going to buy them, I usually buy $500 worth because A, you get more money back, so it's a better bargain. But B, a lot of times Norwegian will have special times of year where instead of only letting you use one future cruise certificate, they'll let you use 2, sometimes even more. But so, if you're planning on taking a cruise and you've got $500 in future cruise credit or toward your payment, on that sailing that's somewhere down the road. So yeah, it's a great deal. You can also transfer them. We've had situations where you've been on an NCL ship and you said, hey, do you want me to get you a certificate? And you buy it and then you transfer it over to me. So they make a lovely Christmas gift if anyone is still out there trying to figure out what to get me. I mean, their loved ones.
You know what confuses me, though, is I think I saw it on Virgin, right? So they sell the certificates. I realize it's a different cruise line. It's not NCL, but I didn't know if you got that onboard credit like as soon as you bought it and it was applied to that sailing or if it was to a future sailing.
I think Virgin's is different. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on this. But I do think Virgin's is on a future cruise. And it's always good. I mean, these things change on a dime. We all know that Norwegian just, rolled back out the free at sea. They had replaced it with more at sea. And more at sea really didn't turn out to be all that popular, whereas free at sea is probably it's probably one of the most popular promotions any cruise line has ever run. For years, you would go to ncl.com and you would see that they were running the free at sea promotion. And it would always say, expiring in January, and it never expired. It went on and on and on until one day they finally did pull it. Mm-hmm. But it is back because it is really popular. And so they're always changing these things up. So even Norwegian could change how they do it. That's how they did it the last time I bought one, the most recent time. So it's always good to make sure you know exactly what you're getting and when you're getting it, because that's a great point that you might get the future, you might get the onboard credit now. You might be able to apply it to a future sailing, but find that out.
And if you have a listener question, drop us a line, doug@cruiseradio.net. Staff writer Richard Sims, feel better, man. Talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot. I always love being here.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Earlier this month, Amy took a 5-night cruise on Carnival Cruise Line's Carnival Valor. It went from New Orleans over to Progresso in Cozumel. She joined us on the line as a very first-time Carnival cruiser. Hello again, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. What made you want to take your very first Carnival cruise?
Yeah, I have a friend at work, just to kind of give you some background. She's in her early 60s. I'm 51, and her daughter is in her early 40s. And the daughter lives in Houston, and then, my coworker and I obviously live here in the Nashville area. So we've been out, we've been hanging out together, all 3 of us and stuff, and have a good time. So we thought, well, let's go on a cruise. So we talked about, sailing out of Galveston, because then we could fly into Houston and we could all drive down to the port. And I really like the Regal Princess that's down there. I thought it was a good deal with the Princess Plus and everything. But her daughter in her 40s thought it would be stuffy and she'd be bored. So then we kind of leaned towards Carnival, which I've never been on Carnival, so I didn't have anything they have to relate it to. But we thought, okay, that would be fun. And then, how about Halloween? So this was a cruise over Halloween. We thought that'd be really fun to sail over Halloween. And we just kind of found this one out of New Orleans, and we could all drive and meet there. And and who doesn't love a night in New Orleans? So yeah, that's how we ended up there.
So it sounds like you did a night in New Orleans. So how was your pre-cruise time there?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was kind of the weekend that hurricane, I think it was Melissa, that was coming through. So we were going to drive down. The cruise left on a Monday. We were going to drive down all day Sunday, just get an early start. But it called for rain. If you looked at the radar, it was just rain straight through Nashville south all the way to the coast. So we ended up just leaving Saturday night just to get ahead of the rain a little bit, spent a night about halfway down, and then drove down to New Orleans. And we got there about noon. Just a little fun fact, if I could, about New Orleans. I just wanted to let you know that it was kind of a weird little loophole that you could drink at the age of 18 all the way up until 1995. I looked into this because when I was in college, I was about 19 or 20, and we went out to the French Quarter. And I remember going to the bars and drinking and thinking that was pretty fun, being under 21. And all I have to say is that's a good thing that social media wasn't around at that point.
Right.
But but apparently Congress passed a minimum drinking age in 1984 and saying that they would, all the states, if they did not raise it to 21, they would lose federal highway funding, which of course everyone agreed, except Louisiana created a loophole that it made it illegal for people under 21 to buy alcohol, but it did not make it illegal for anyone to sell them alcohol. So for 11 years, they were running with that loophole. But then in 1995, they changed it back to 21. So now all states are 21. But I thought that was a little fun fact.
So you're of legal drinking age now. What did you do?
Oh, yes. We stayed at Caesars, the hotel. Just one little thing about Caesars. So I'm a low roller, but I can get some free hotel rooms like during the week, not the weekends. And so I figured with with a free room that they have I guess a year ago, they went through a huge renovation. They've made the Harris Hotel. They've now rebranded it as Caesars. And they have 3 hotel towers, a Nobu, Caesars, and Harris. So I figured I'd be in the older Harris Tower with my free room. But what I did not realize is there was 2 separate check-in areas. There's a Harris Hotel check-in and across the street, the Caesars. I figured it was just one, the Caesars, and then they direct you to your hotel tower. So that was a lot. Just and there was no notation online saying which tower I was going to be in. So just let people know if they're staying there. Just give them a call and maybe find out which check-in, because we were going back and forth with our luggage way too much. It was ridiculous.
So are there different check-in areas, like 2 like reception desks and 2 different standalone? The hotels are not connected, or are they connected?
They are connected under the ground. They've created a tunnel under the ground. But yes, 2 separate check-in desks, which was kind of annoying that we didn't know about ahead of time. Interesting.
All right. Well, did you make your way around New Orleans that evening before you boarded the cruise the next day?
Yeah. So we just walked around Bourbon Street. We had to have some char-grilled oysters and some yummy other New Orleans fare. We stopped in Pat O'Brien's, had a hurricane or 2. And then just went back to the hotel. But, and also just something to note, my friend that was with me just kept saying, where's all the jazz music? Where's the jazz music? So when you're walking around Bourbon, it's apparently, changed over the years, where apparently the jazz has kind of moved to a different area of New Orleans. They call it Frenchman Street. I guess it's about maybe 20-minute walk or so from the French Quarter over doing research. And by research, I mean watching YouTube videos, TikToks, and Facebook Reels, but found that's primarily where you want to go to hear jazz music. There is music on Bourbon Street, but it's usually just kind of rocks. And it's just really like a big frat party. It's just, that's all there is to do, is to go around to the different bars and drink. But, we enjoyed it for a while. I went back to the casino to get the comp drinks there.
Yeah.
But, and then, and Caesars is smoke-free now.
Oh, wow.
Which is nice. But they do have these really neat areas. They're like outdoor smoking areas. So there's fencing around, so you can only get to those areas from inside the casino. But they do have lots of slot machines and everything out there. Apparently, when it went smoke-free, they lost, I think it said like $70 million in 2 years. So they built these outdoor smoking sections. So there's something for everybody. If you do smoke, there's plenty of areas for you. I like to play table games. And on a Sunday night, the minimum I could find on the craps table was $25, which is a little too rich for my blood. So, but that's okay. I played the slots and made a contribution to their renovation costs. So we're all good.
There you go. So the next morning, it's time to board the ship at the Julia Street Cruise Terminal. How was embark?
It was really easy. There is parking right there at the port, but I parked just a little farther back. It's called Fulton Street parking. It was just a little bit cheaper, about half the cost of the port parking, just FYI. And they have you could walk to the casino from there, and you could probably walk to the port from there as well, and from the hotel. But we just had all our luggage, so we just took an Uber down there. So we had a 10:30, arrival time. And when you came into the port, once you checked your luggage with the porters, you go in. They had 2 lines. They had an on-time line and another area for people that were too early to, their boarding time. Well, it was by this time, I mean, it was like 10:15, 10:20, but they took one look at our sheet and sent us to the other line that we're too early. So now we're standing in this early line and just looking around. This line is not moving. And I see other people's paper. And I mean, they have 12, 1 o'clock arrival times. I thought, this is crazy. We're only 10 minutes early. So we stood there till about 10:30, got out of the line and hopped in. And, of course, somebody was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, well, we have our time. And she said, well, why didn't you tell me that when you got here? I would have let you through. I said, well, apparently the person that was standing there didn't want to let us in 10 minutes early. So long story short, get there on time or you're going to be standing over in another little line. But once we got there, we went right through security and checked in, and it was no problem. We entered a large area with seating. We sat there about, 15, 20 minutes, and then they started boarding, with the VIP people, diamonds and all that. And I was trying to get the timing, but all I can know is we got in about 10:30 and I looked at my picture reel, and at 11:09, I was standing at the rum bar. And so I'm pretty sure we were eating right after that with Guy's Burgers. So it was nice to get in there and early because they don't open the rooms till about 1 or 2. So everyone just kind of stands there, with all their luggage, and at least we had a little place to sit. So anyway, so we just kind of sat there until they opened the rooms and enjoyed our afternoon.
You mentioned this was your first time sailing Carnival Cruise Line, but before the interview, you were telling me that this ship, recently underwent a renovation. So I want to ask you, just from the research you did, could you tell what was renovated, and what were your first impressions of Carnival Valor?
Yeah, what I understand is the renovations that were, they put in most of all the carpeting was new. They rebranded a sports bar to a Heroes Tribute Lounge, which was nice. I guess they did renovations, the kids club or the spa. Also put elevators all the way to the top deck and for the accessible use there. They had a single water slide in a pool, and now there's 2 water slides in like a children's splash type area. Mm-hmm. And one of the nice things that I saw was the lamps. They have 2 lamps by the bed, and they have, outlets and a USB outlet on them. So that was really nice to have. We almost had like all 3 of us each had our own outlet between the desk and each one of those. So that was really nice. I was just going to say my first impressions is, when you come in there, you have the main atrium, with the big glass elevators that go up. I guess they call it American lobby. I mean, it was pretty impressive. Again, I think we mentioned this is my first time in Carnival. I didn't know what to expect. And I've heard of Joe Farkas and his decorations, watched many videos. And, on videos, the decorations, I mean, it looks kind of tacky, kind of kitschy with all the colors and everything. But just walking around and seeing everything in person, I mean, it works. It's really well done. Mm-hmm. To see everything. This ship was, themed hero and heroism. And, everything's Americana. All the tiles are red, white, and blue. When you first walk in, that large atrium, they have, almost like headshots or busts of famous people and have like a red light and a blue light illuminating from the bottom. I mean, it's really neat. It really does sets the stage for the fun cruise ahead. It was really neat. I thought it was pretty. Oh, and then Halloween. So it was all decorated for Halloween, which was really cool. It had Halloween garland all along the banisters and a giant, like 10, 12-foot pumpkin pirate man there in the lobby to greet you. It was kind of our backdrop of the pictures all week. It was great.
You briefly spoke about the staterooms with the lamps having USB plugs, but what were your impressions of the stateroom with it being your first Carnival cruise?
It was nice. We had a balcony on the 8th floor, starboard side, only a few rooms from the forward elevators, which we finally found that the last day, which elevators you're closest to. But speaking of elevators, there's 18 elevators, like 3 elevator banks on that ship. And for that size, that was pretty nice. Never waited for an elevator. So they had forward, aft, and midship elevators. I've been on ships twice as big and only had 2 elevator banks. But back to the room. Yes, it was very nice. A little dated. I mean, the ship's 20 years old or so. But as far as the balcony with 3 people, it's really nice to have that extra space. So, someone could be out in the balcony while other people were getting ready and stuff. I'm really glad we had that. Had 3 closets, We each had a few drawers. We had plenty of room. The shower, well, the bathroom, of course, it has the dreaded shower curtain. But actually on this cruise, I was really happy to have the shower curtain. And that being said, is because for some reason I could not get the water anything other than scalding hot in the shower. It was crazy. Anyway, I turned it. It was so hot. So I took a shower almost standing halfway in and halfway out, just getting the water in when I had to. So I pretty much ended up soaking the whole bathroom, but that's the only way I could do it without getting third-degree burns or something. It was crazy.
Nothing like a good stateroom bathroom flood. I think we've all done it a time or two. Let's switch gears here and talk about the food on Carnival Valor in the buffet area, the Lido Marketplace. How was the food for your first time on Carnival, and did it ever feel too crowded?
It was a little crowded, of course, on sea days at the pool and things. And the buffet could get crowded, but there is I don't know if people really knew this. So when you're coming off of the pool area, the Lido pool into the buffet, you come to one line of food with the salads and the hot food. But if you keep walking back on each side of that buffet, you have the deli on one side for sandwiches, and then sushi bar on their sushi stall, I don't know what you want to call it, on the other side. And then there's a whole nother buffet in the back, which was never anybody there. Everybody was crowded around the front one. And it did have some different selections. So I always tried to make like a loop around to see what I wanted to get before I ate there. And it had a good selection. Of course, it has the guy's burger and blue iguana out by the Lido pool, which was delicious. Oh, here's a little thing that I tried out. Get a pretzel bun at the deli, take it to Guy's Burger. It's a game changer. You can thank me later. It's very good. And then, of course, my favorite was the Pizza Pirate. And it was open for like 9 a.m. till midnight. And there's been more than one night that I was running to the back to make sure I hit it before midnight because it was delicious. I had it at least every day.
You were on Holland America, and they have the dive-in burgers. NCL has a little burger place at their buffet spot. Guy's Burger Joint could be next level. What did you think?
I mean, it was great. It hands down the best burger I've had at sea for sure. It was great with all the toppings, and then you could get it was great. And they were pumping them out. Like, I don't think I waited more than 5 minutes, even with a really long line, maybe 10 tops. But they really do a good job of doing quality and very quickly.
All right, not bad at all. I'm sorry, were you going to talk about something else on the Lido deck?
I just wanted to say, as far as the buffet, we never really had trouble finding seats, but if you do, there's also a second floor to that buffet. If you keep going back to that second, like you're going to the aft pool or the Pizza Pirate, you'll come to a giant area where there's 2 staircases going up. You'll see them going up to the right, to the left. And that is the barbecue buffet, which was also really good. And I don't know if many people even knew it was there. And there's also seating up on that 10th floor, which is really nice. And, the buffet is kind of like, it has a diner feel. The tables are green and lots of chrome. It makes you feel like you're kind of like in an old timey diner. Mm-hmm. I thought was really cool.
The main dining room, what time dining did you have and what did you think of it?
Yeah, we had anytime dining. That's my favorite. I've been on here a couple times. I think I might have mentioned that. And that's why we started, with Norwegian as well, other than the price way back when it kind of included everything. But we love the freestyle aspect of it. So we went with anytime dining. And then there's 2 separate dining rooms. We were in the Lincoln, I believe, and was kind of like midship. And then the Washington is the set dining. They have the set dining times at 5:30 and 8. So we like that. We ended up having it. So now I kind of get the fact that people like certain times because they like to get to know the crew, because we ended up just coincidentally in our anytime dining showing up and having the same, server group and, the sets of servers that they have together, like 2 or 3 or 4 that all work together. And we really like them so much that we requested them the last day. So I can kind of understand that time. I just like to be able to, we ate anywhere between 6 and 7. It was kind of about the same time, but. Okay. And it was nice, because you could order different entrees, and especially a group of women, we just like to order a bunch of stuff and share everything together. That was really fun. That's one time I think I had 2 entrees. One day I just had like 4 appetizers for dinner. I mean, and they just don't blink an eye. They do whatever and give you whatever you want. They have emerald dishes, like a little section in the menu, and those were really good. I think I had salmon 2 nights. And honestly, the last Norwegian cruise, they didn't even have salmon in the main dining room at all.
Oh, wow.
That I saw. So I was really impressed with the food. It really did surprise me on the food. It was much better than I had anticipated. And then on Halloween night, it was really cute that they had Halloween themed desserts and things like that. So that was really good. And of course, they have the dancers. That's the first time he's seen the dancers in the dining room. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, the wait staff really brings the energy there. How about the steakhouse? Did you dine there?
We did not make it to the steakhouse. My friend is not a big fan of steak, but I did get the surf and turf off. They have the steakhouse selections, I guess you want to call it, on the main dining room menu. And I did have the surf and turf. That was really great. We did go to the Sea Day brunch the first day, and that's the only meal that I wasn't totally in love with. I had the steak and eggs, and they were both overcooked, but I mean, the steak still had a good flavor, actually. Gotcha. But no, we never made it to Seafood Shack or the sushi place. And they also have, I don't know if this is new, but you can buy wings now. They have like wings you can buy for about, $1 a piece or so, give or take a little bit. And I thought, I bet that would be good. But there was just so much free included food that there was no need to be like, oh, nothing looks good, let's get wings. So we just never really bought anything extra, which was great. And they have donuts in the morning that I guess you can buy, beignets and donuts.
Oh, yeah. So good.
I think they're. And then also, I just wanted to mention, as far as the buffet, I don't think I mentioned this. There's a coffee shop in the buffet. If the Java Blue usually had a huge line. So if you're in the buffet area and you see the staircase going up in that giant Rosie the Riveter mural, that's where the staircase comes out right before you go out to the elevator banks before the adult pool, the aft pool, just tucked right in there on the left-hand side. So I guess that would be the starboard side, but left if you're looking at the staircase. Just a little tiny one person. There's only one person there, and it's tiny, but you can get coffee there. And that's usually where I found that nobody was ever there. I could get coffee there, just to let someone know if you're looking for coffee. And Java Blue has 1 million people. And then I think that some of the bars do coffee too, like in the atrium, I think on the third floor, they'll give you coffees there.
Did you have the drink package by chance?
I did. And I have a whole blurb about that. You want me to go into that
let's talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And there's so much online about people talking about the drink package. Is it worth it? Is it not? So, and everyone says the same thing. But again, it's all about how much you think you're going to use it. So Carnival includes 15 alcoholic drinks per day. And also unlimited non-alcoholic drinks, which is really a big game changer because they include bottled water, Powerades, Red Bulls, the specialty coffees, and protein drinks. I even saw like the protein drinks you could get at that little coffee shop, which I thought was pretty crazy. So if you think, you're just having maybe a half a dozen of those and maybe like 3 or 4 drinks, it pretty much pays for itself. You're looking at $7 to $9 a beer, $12 to $14.50 for a cocktail. So if you have, what is that, about 5? And then if you're paying let's just go back to the drink package with the gratuity included is $82.50 a day. So each one of those cocktails you're buying without the drink package, you're also paying 18% on that. So I thought it was a great deal. And it's funny because I bought these little bracelets online. I just was thinking, how can we keep track of our drink numbers? So apparently these little bracelets, they're like little yarn bracelets and they have little silver beads. And therefore, to keep track of your golf strokes, it says like seniors or first-time golfers, keep track of your golf strokes. Well, I bought them so we can keep track of our drinks. And so I thought that was pretty funny.
That's actually really smart. That's awesome.
It was, but then we lost track, so it didn't help. I got cut off one day. I thought I lost my number. So, and another token there, that sounds like terrible, right? That's a lot of drinks. But I did find that there was several, and that's a nice thing about a drink package as well. You could try something, right, that you normally wouldn't order just to see if you like it. Well, this particular day, I found several that I did not like. So I would just kind of turn it back in. You don't get refunds if you don't drink it. Okay, just keep that in mind. So I think there were several that I was turning back in and then getting something else I like. And before I knew it, it was They were like, this is your last one. It was about 10 o'clock at night. So then I started using the Powerade. I probably needed it at that point. So I used the included Powerades for the rest of the evening.
I love it. The entertainment on the ship, whether it be the theater shows, music around the ship, comedy shows, what did you think? And the entertainment on the ship, we were kind of chatting before we hit record here, and you were saying the party seemed to be out in the smoking area.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it really was. That's funny. And compared to other ships, I think they really have a nice smoking section, well, several smoking sections on the ship. So they allow smoking in the casino. And I know you always ask about the smoking situation. Yes, it's on one side of this casino, but you can smell it. I mean, it's really strong all around that area. And the one thing that I found too, that people would just, it says to smoke only when you're gambling, but there was a lot of people that would just set up shop right there, and they're just sitting there and they're having a party right there. And there's lots of times I wanted to really use those slot machines, but I wasn't about to break up, that's kind of awkward. So I wish people wouldn't really do that. But other than the casino, on the starboard side, I think it's on 10 and 3, the third level, they have humongous smoking areas with seating areas. On 10, there's umbrellas. It's outside, one's deck up from the Lido deck. And it was really always a lot of fun. My friends, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they have never met a stranger. They talk to anybody, anywhere we are. If there's anyone near us, they're our new friends. So we had tons of friends throughout this cruise. It was so much fun. If we made plans to meet somewhere and they weren't there at the time, I would just find them in the smoking area and they'd be out there having a party. It was really a lot of fun. I've seen some of the newer ships have these tiny little areas with no seating and everything. But if you are a smoker, I think this is a ship for you. It really was smoker friendly, I think.
What did you think of like the shows in the main theater, if you caught any, or the venues around the ship, like music or comedy?
Yeah, the main theater is not really my thing. I think they did a 70s singing in America Rocks. They called it Studio VIP, I guess was the 70s theme. America Rocks, just singing and dancing. I didn't check those out. Deal or No Deal, I tried that for the first time. It was okay. I don't think I'd buy the cards again. That seemed kind of like a ripoff. But then on Halloween, they had a costume contest, and that was really fun. They had a string trio in the American lobby, and they weren't playing classical music. They were actually playing like popular music you'd recognize, but on the strings. It was like a woman and two men, and they were really great. It was right in front of our dining room too, so we always would catch them before or after we ate. They were really good. And then other than the third floor and the theater, most everything is on deck 5. So you go from the casino. Oh, I apologize. There's a karaoke bar, Winston's Bar on 4, that had some entertainment. We caught that one night, but I'm not a huge karaoke fan either. So, go through the casino, you hit the Red Frog pub, and that was a lot of fun. They had some good bands in there. On this ship, it was a real strange layout. So when you walk in, you're walking in and there's a couple of tables and chairs, and then you're looking almost at the side of the bar, if that makes sense, right? And then if you kept going forward past the bar, you come to the stage, and then it goes out to the left. So most people sit out to the left. It makes a big L shape, okay? But the thing is, when it gets really, really crowded, you can't even hardly go past the bar to get to the area where you can dance or sit and watch the music. So I wish that was in a different place, because it was a lot of fun, but it was a very tiny venue. And then you go into the Alchemy Bar, which that was great. They do a fun show with the drinks, and the bartenders were a big hoot. And here's just a little FYI tip for you. If you like to drink martinis, and they have the fancy glass with the stem, that's lovely. If you're sitting there at the bar, if you want to take that thing to go, get it in a rocks glass, because I ended up with one completely all over me one time. So it's not fun. Somebody ran right into me as I was walking and ended up having to change my clothes. So FYI, there's a piano bar, and then you end there at the Eagles Lounge, I guess, where they do the comedy. And I always heard that was really good on Carnival. We just never really made it. It seemed like we would just be doing something else, and we'd be like, okay, we'll come back and get the late show. And then we never would, or something like that. On the Lido, I forgot the nightclub. Sorry, the nightclub's right there by everything on 5. And that place was packed, and the music was really loud. I went in there one night, and ran right on the dance floor. And within 30 seconds, I had a tap on my shoulder with security. I was like, "Excuse me, you can't have your beverage on the dance floor." So we stood back and watched for a while. So, and there was lots of security in there. So I think they're doing. You hear on the news things that go down on Carnival ships, and I never really saw. And that's going through. I saw people. They're having fun. They're drinking things, but never saw anyone get out of hand, never saw anyone get violent or anything. And then security, is pretty present too. So that was good to see. And then on the Lido, they had an 80s party, which was a lot of fun. And then on the Halloween party, I missed the Halloween party because we had to drive home the next day. So I made that an early night. I didn't hit the Halloween party, but my friend went. She said it was a lot of fun.
Did any of your friends dress up for the Halloween party?
Oh, we dressed up. We got a silly costume. We ordered this. It's just T-shirts that we ordered from Amazon. Mm-hmm. So we were the, quote, Spice Girls.
Okay.
But McCormick spices. So I was rosemary. We had like chili powder and saffron. So it was funny. It's one of those costumes you would explain kind of to everybody. Sure. It was silly. It was kind of dumb, but we wanted to do something. And at one point, we were walking down the hall and we heard, "There's the Seasonings girls." So like people were calling us all kinds of things. I don't know. It was a hoot. But people went all out. I mean, and all week long. I mean, people were wearing Halloween, either costumes or Halloween themed shirts and outfits all week. It was a great time to be on a cruise. It was a lot of fun.
That is amazing. So cool there. Yeah. And sea days, as far as crowds and congestion, what did you think?
It's crowded. I mean, around the main pool, there's just the one big pool there on 9. With loud music, I mean, the music was loud. There was one day we lucked out the first sea day and we got some front row chairs. I don't know how we managed that, but my friend snagged us some. And then they have Legends of the Lido, I guess, a contest, where they're strutting their stuff. That was a hoot. And then we just, they also have the pool in the back. It was adults only. And the pool in the back by the pizza place, it has a retractable roof. And it was nice weather, so it was open most of the time. But it's a strange area because it is open, yes, like a convertible, but you're enclosed on all sides by glass. So it was still kind of a strange place. But we never could find any loungers around that pool, so we never hit that pool. But we spent a lot of time in the Serenity deck, which was great. You just walk up from the pool up to deck 12, and then they also have a 14th floor with 2 hot tubs up there. So, and they have nice padded loungers, and we never had problems. I mean, most of the time that place was pretty empty, even on the busiest sea days, up at the Serenity. And they have a bar up there. It was really nice. Those bartenders were great. And also, which I liked about the main pool area, that there's 2 bars. You have the rum bar on the one side with all their different little rum drinks, and then you can go to the tequila bar on the other side. And every bar at this place had a different menu, which I thought was really neat, with like specialty cocktails. You don't get that on some other ships. And I mean, ships that are twice that size only have 1 pool bar, and they're always slammed. And this was nice. You could go to either one of those bars, go to the aft bar at the 9th floor. There's a bar there, or the Serenity bar. I mean, you're like 10 feet from anything you need. You don't have to wait in line anywhere. For the size of the ship, I think they had a lot of great amenities like that, that kept the crowd seeming not that bad. And there was a few kids, but then they have that little splash area there that kind of kept the kids towards there. They weren't too much into the pool.
Let's talk about the ports of call on this 5-nighter. You said Cozumel and Progresso. What did you think of them?
So we were scheduled to go to Cozumel Wednesday, Progresso Thursday. But we, I think on that first sea day, we got a letter in our stateroom just saying that the weather, unfavorable weather is forecasted for Progresso on Thursday. So they switched the day to Wednesday, which we thought, hey, that's great that they can do that. This is great. No problem. But as we started talking to other people, and we also had a Carnival excursion booked in Cozumel, which we knew obviously would not be any problem to switch the day. But some people that had, independent excursions, they really, really got messed up by those things. We were hearing a lot of people that having lots of problems, that they didn't get to do their excursions because of the switching those days. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're booking outside of the cruise ship. So then the first day ended up on Wednesday. We went to Progresso. And so Progresso is unusual. You dock on a pier that's, I want to say 4 miles. Yeah, 4 miles away from the actual beach, from the land. and it's actually the world's largest pier. A little fun fact there. So you get off the ship, you go through that. There's a duty-free shops and everything. If you want to just hop off the boat and go to those little shops and get back on, that's fine. But they offer a free shuttle that will take you from along the pier to the beach. They go past the beach into a little, I don't know, it's like an open air market area where they drop you off. And then you just turn the opposite direction and just walk toward the beach. It's not very built up. It's not very, it's not Cozumel by any means. But then that was kind of the beauty of it too. So my friend, she just said she wanted to go snorkeling in Cozumel and she wanted a massage. Those were her two things to check off this list. So I thought, well, instead of you spending, all this money on a massage on the boat, I by watching videos and things, knew that there was massages on the beach. And so we walked to the beach, and sure enough, you walk across a little boardwalk, and if you want to keep going down from where you come in that main road, there's tons of bars and restaurants all along there, and just chairs and loungers as far as you can see. But when you first get off the boardwalk and get into the sand, going towards the ocean, there's massage tents. You see them; they're just lined up one after another. So we walked up and we said, "Hey, how much?" So they said $25 for 30 minutes, $40 for an hour. And I was like, "Hey, will you take 30 for an hour?" Yep. So my friend and her daughter, they got a massage, and I just wanted to sit on a lounger, under an umbrella. So I did that. And it's funny. So a waiter came up, immediately handed me a menu. And also you get free chairs because every little section of the chairs belongs to some type of bar and restaurant. So they want you, it's free, right? But they want you to buy stuff, right?
Sure.
I mean, they want you to buy something from their restaurant or get a massage. You could just get a massage and then go sit down. I think they would allow that too. So they handed me a menu and it said it's $6 for a beer. So I said, "Okay, I'll have one beer, please." And he says, "You want a bucket?" I said, No. How much? And he said, 35. I said, No, really. I mean, I just want one beer. How about 30? No, it's okay. I just want beer. 25. Okay, sold. So everything is negotiable in Mexico. Keep that in mind. Even prices on a menu, apparently. So the beach is really nice. I mean, it's not crowded. There's not very many people. There are vendors. It is Mexico. You're going to be approached a lot, but, just a very polite, no, thank you. And usually we're not aggressive. At least they were not to us. I mean, it does get tiresome for a while. Of course it does. But, other than that, and this was a good place to buy souvenirs. Of course, haggle with anything. If you're this is a cheaper place to buy things compared to Cozumel if you're looking for things like that. And also wear water shoes because it's a little bit rocky on the beach. And we met some people later that said they found a lot of glass as well. It's just not kept up like it would be, in the U.S. beaches. So just keep that in mind if you're going to be walking around in the sand and things, to wear something. Here's so many, on Facebook groups and things about, what do you do in Progresso? And everybody's like, it's terrible. It's gross. It's a rat hole. It's dirty. It's Mexico. Just keep that in mind. I never felt unsafe. The city just south of Progresso is called Merida, and that's apparently it's the safest city in Mexico. So I didn't feel unsafe the whole time as three women, walking alone in a strange city. It was never felt scared or anything. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it's free. The beach is free. The shuttle's free. Get off the boat, take the shuttle, walk to the beach, take a look, go back. I mean, we were back before lunch, back to getting the free food on the ship. But I'm glad we got off. It kind of reminded me of Cozumel, or the little city, 5 minutes from Cozumel port, that Mahahal or whatever it's called.
Yep.
That's kind of what I remember when I first started cruising in 2012. In 2015, we went there a couple times, and it's just, a little sleepy Mexican village that primarily their income is tourism. So they want your money. So
all right.
Anyway, yeah, that was Progresso. And then the next day we went to Cozumel. I might have mentioned we booked a snorkeling tour, a catamaran snorkeling tour. We were really excited about that. And we had to be off by like 8 or 8:30. So we're hurrying off the boat. We get there to our meeting point, and it was canceled because it was too windy. And I understand that's no big deal, but we kind of wondered, surely they knew that, right? They knew that before we even got there. Why didn't they leave a note in our room, to let us know so we could, not have to hurry off the boat, I guess, in other words, to get off. But anyway, so we would have brought more cash. We would have worn something besides our bathing suits, that type of thing. But anyway, we just went shopping. We went outside. Of course, there's tons of shopping in the port areas, bars and restaurants right there. We saddled up at 9:00 in the morning to order a drink to get their Wi-Fi so we could talk to people at home. That's another thing I forgot to mention. We did not purchase the internet package, and I did not miss it. I really thought I would, but I didn't miss it as much as I thought, which was really nice. There's just so much else going on, but just know that there's Wi-Fi off the ship if you want. Of course, they want you to buy something before they give you the Wi-Fi password. But we went out of the port area and did some shopping out there. That's a good place, Cozumel, if you want something a little bit nicer, like more like jewelry types of things. My friend got a pretty gold watch, and we got like a silver bracelet and things like that. And another thing, you want to bring cash because, of course, they will haggle. But they will haggle a little more if you're not using a card. It's nice. They will accept a card. I don't think the little stalls in Progresso would take cards. I mean, they're pretty much cash only. It's almost like a flea market type area. But Progresso, Cozumel, they're more like stores, and they will take credit card, but they'll give you a better price if it's cash.
And you're steaming towards New Orleans now. That ride up the Mississippi sure is cool.
It is. It is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We saw it more, the night of leaving
right.
But didn't kind of slept through it on the way back. But, and then we didn't run into any real bad weather. We had sunny, beautiful weather every time, but leaving Cozumel was a little rough. On that third story or the promenade deck there on 3, if you were standing by the rail, you're going to get splashed pretty bad. I mean, it was kicking up pretty good. The boat was moving. I think the bags came out, but for people. But I've never really gotten sick, knock on wood. But I think some people were feeling it a little bit that evening. But and then you do feel it. You can feel it going through the Mississippi too with the turns and stuff.
That's the thing about those New Orleans cruises, though, because you're probably around dinner time, maybe in the main dining room, and you start seeing during the day you start seeing the oil rigs off the coast, and then by dinner you start seeing the lights of shore, and then reality starts slowly setting in that this is about to wind on down.
Yeah, and a funny thing, one of our first cruises. So you asked if I ever took a cruise out of New Orleans before, and I have. That's where our first cruises when my children were little. And my son, he had to, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6, and he went into the kids club the first night, we're going through the Mississippi, and I didn't really realize it at that time that they got so motion sick. After that, I, have to treat him the whole time we're on a cruise. But he got sick that evening, the first night, right? So when you get sick at the kids club, they make you stay out for 24 hours. Well, the whole next day was the first sea day, and he didn't get to go to the kids club that first sea day. I remember thinking, oh no, this is terrible. What are we going to do with this little child the whole day? He can't, and he wants to go. My kids love the kids clubs on all the boats we ever went on. So that was kind of a bummer. So just keep that in mind. If your children get seasick, maybe try some medication pre-treat them or something, because we had to after that.
So you make your way to New Orleans. How was the debark process?
Debark wasn't bad at all. Of course, you can get off right if you're carrying your own luggage. So just to preface this, we went on a cruise this summer we had 8 nights, a night before, and a cruise for 7 days. And I was able to do it in a backpack and a carry-on. And it was a great feeling. So I knew I could do it. On this, because I was driving, I had that plus another carry-on in a giant suitcase. So why I brought so much, I'll get into that in a minute. But so you can carry your luggage off. And I thought, I am not going to do that. I'm not going to carry this giant suitcase. So I put my suitcase out the night before. So I think we had a time at like 8:30. And when we were leaving at 8:30, we saw everyone walking off with giant suitcases. I was like, okay, well, I guess I could have done this, and we could have been on the road earlier. But anyway, it was fine. I think I was trying to time it again, lost track of time, but I think we left our room about 8. We never stood anywhere. By the time we got down to where we were supposed to get off the ship, we just kept walking straight through, picked up our suitcases, they have the shuttle right there waiting for us to take us to the parking garage. And I think by 9:30, I was like crossing the Lake Pontchartrain, like on my way home. So it wasn't bad. I mean, like an hour and a half to do all that with everything like that. I thought it was pretty reasonable. And like I said, I never stood around waiting. It was moving the whole time, so it didn't seem like very long. Another little tidbit too. Everyone's always writes, of course we want to tip the crew if you so feel like it. Not that everyone has to or wants to, but if you want to give a couple bucks to the crew, waiters, bartenders, this and that. I started doing this, and I did it on a land-based vacation a year or two ago. And I made like little bags with like a little piece of candy in there along with, a buck or two or whatever. And some of they really enjoyed it. It was like a Mexico all inclusive. And they're like, wow, because maybe that's something they don't get all the time. So people always say, I want to bring something from my hometown, but you have to think that, right, the crew, obviously they don't have much space to store like the shot glasses you want to give them from Tennessee or what have you, But food, I think, is always good because they can, always eat it. It doesn't take up much room. So, of course, being a Halloween theme, I had little Halloween bags. And I put, a couple pieces of candy and a couple bucks in there. And I also had these little Halloween pretzels, and I gave those out. And some people, some don't really say much. And then some of the servers and bartenders just loved it. And I thought that was just kind of fun to, put a smile on, my face, hit their face. And
for sure.
I also brought a whole pack of waffle cones. I thought that was be pretty cool to use with the soft serve ice cream. Well, I used like one, and then I had this giant thing of cones, and I ended up giving it to another family who thought it was the best thing ever. So I made their day. So I brought more than I should have, but it was fun. It was just a fun little things to bring, little extras here and there, just to give somebody some ideas if they wanted to try something different, do something like that.
Well, looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all?
Yes, highlight. So just the fact of going the cruise, with my friends, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, they are so outgoing and so fun to be with. It just brings me out of my shell. When my husband and I cruise, we're friendly. We're not going to ignore people. I mean, we do talk to people, but I mean, I'm talking, my friends are, if you're just standing next to anyone, they're new best friends, and the food, the food it just exceeded all my expectations. I mean, everything was good, almost to delicious to excellent. I mean, I was so impressed going into that. So let's see. Oh, and it being Halloween, that was fun. Just seeing all the costumes. It was a lot of fun.
And Amy, I skipped over one. Any first-time tips for cruising Carnival? Because you were a first-time cruiser, and I'm sure there's other first-time Carnival cruisers out there.
As far as get off in Progresso, I think I mentioned that. It's free to take the shuttle, go to the beach, all free. Have fun, buy a little trinket here or there. And then I mentioned too, Cozumel, if you're shopping, bring cash. You're going to get a better deal. I feel like I saved money parking at the Fulton garage, which was literally just a block past the other garage. I mean, when I was on the top deck, and I parked on the top deck because that's cheaper than the covered, but I didn't have my car in my garage all summer. So I thought I didn't need to pay extra to be in the covered. Oh, okay. So we all ended up with colds. It happens. My friend said maybe I should mention, to try to bring some airborne beforehand. I actually was taking some of that ahead, but just as a tip to bring cold medicine because we did need it. Like it was nice to have some of that on the ship, of course, with Tylenol and Advil. Of course, you can probably buy that on the ship or in the ports, but it's going to cost like 5 times as much as you can buy at your local Walmart or whatever, If you're having trouble finding seats in the buffet, go up to the 10th floor and don't forget that there's barbecue up there. That was really good. Just look at that the app. I haven't mentioned the app yet. The app was great. That Hub app. It tells you the opening times and of all the bars and restaurants, what's open, when's it open. I mean, it's just nice. It's really handy to look and be like, what time is it? What can I go to get to eat right now? You can also, and that being said, even if you want to unplug like we did, essentially no internet, you really need the Hub app because you have to check in for dinner. You look at the wait, you say you check in, and it's really cool. It'll say, 10 minutes, and then they'll say, hey, make your way to the restaurant. So you're kind of waiting in line, but you're sitting, in the atrium bar listening to music, or you're sitting in your room, getting dressed. So when you walk up to the entrance, you already have your table number and they just whisk you right away. I thought that was really cool. And also all the debarking. You have to sign up for a debark appointment on the app as well. So you can't just, not bring the phone. You kind of have to bring the phone for some things. You don't have to get on the internet, but you got to bring the phone. And I would just, you can walk off with your luggage, at least on this ship of this size. Probably the bigger ships would be more trouble trying to get an elevator and all that jazz to get your big, huge luggage down to the embark. But I saw tons of people bringing it. With this ship, you could definitely carry it off, and I would have wished. And and this is probably mentioned on something else, but they have these weird candy straws that they use for drinks, and it's fine for like the first 5 or 10 minutes, but they really turn into some kind of like limp, soggy
wet noodle.
spaghetti. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. So bring a reusable straw if you need it, and a reusable cup because your drinks, that ice is going to melt in 2 seconds.
Awesome. For the price you paid, do you think the value was there?
Yeah, I think so. Splitting your room 3 ways, of course, is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And I didn't mention, right, that we had 2 twin beds and then the couch. Mm-hmm. So my friends, one slept on the bed and the couch. They said the couch was really hard and they had to flip-flop the next day. And then they said it was fine. But just to know that's going to be a little bit harder, the couch. And because only the 1 time a day service, that's going to stay in a bed the whole time. Right. You're not going to get to use it really as a couch, which was fine. I mean, we all had our own beds and space to set up. So yes. And then I think I talked about the drink package. Again, I found like it was a value for me. It would not be a value for everyone. But yeah, I thought it was good.
You mentioned that you're not a high roller, but you do like to play. What are your favorite slots?
Oh yeah. I didn't talk about the casino. It was a lot of fun. I like all of it. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I do. If they do have some old ones, they didn't have a lot of old ones on this ship, mostly of the new ones. But once you get the new ones, and I usually just sit down, and if I'm not getting a bonus within like the first couple of minutes, I just go to another machine because I know that you usually can get them. And when you do get them, they're fun. The ones with the pots, what is it? Spicy pot. I had a lot of fun on one of those. I went in there one day, didn't do anything. And then one day I just played for hours, on a small amount of money. And the craps table was a lot of fun. I did play that. And it was only $10 minimum, which that's more my style. Mm-hmm. And the dealers were a hoot. I mean, they were a lot of fun. So I did that a couple of days and did pretty well there. I usually I'm up a little bit in craps, then I'll lose it in slots, then I'll go back to the craps table and, that kind of thing. I'm really bad about just putting it in my pocket and leaving, but I just like to play. You think you're same thing. You allot your time. Like if we go to a land-based casino, I'm like, I have this amount of money and this is my entertainment, right? Like you said, you want to go to a concert and spend that money. You want to go to the casino and spend that money. And I don't spend more or less. I would just like to play longer. Yeah. On that amount of money. You're going to get it all at the end. Just let me play a little bit. Give me some entertainment for my money.
All right. Well, in closing here, final thoughts of Carnival Valor.
Okay. Well, I think you could tell so far that I had a great time. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. And then something I just kind of noticing as I'm along the week, everyone's real friendly. The crew, of course, but other cruisers as well. So everywhere you sat, and of course, it could be my friends, that are very friendly too. But just even when I was by myself, I mean, everyone you turn to, they're like, hey, what's going on? Everyone starts talking. Well, as I'm talking, most people are from the South. Is it a Southern thing? I don't know. Is it is it a Carnival thing? I don't know. It's my first Carnival cruise, but whatever it was, I was there for it. I had a blast. It was one of my favorite cruises in general. And I'll definitely, sail Carnival again. I'm already talking to my husband, trying to get him to go on one now.
We've been speaking with Amy about her 5-night cruise out of New Orleans on Carnival Valor. Amy, it's always great talking to you, and thank you so much for giving us this very detailed review of Carnival Valor.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,